Anybody, anywhere,
It's time to take command with former NFL tight end Logan Paulsen.
This pass caught by Paulsen, the tight end.
And from 106.7 The Fan, Grant Paulsen.
Welcome into Take Command with Logan Paulsen, who spent a decade in the National Football League. I'm Grant Paulsen. You can listen to me on 106.7 The Fan. Watch Take Command on the 106.7 The Fan YouTube, the Team 980 YouTube channel as well. If you like to see our mugs in high definition, producer Evan O'Brien is alongside. Logan, we're dropping this on a Monday, and it's Home Run Derby Monday in Major League Baseball. Did you ever play with anybody that was like a really good baseball player or star? I've always found that most of the time in football, if you were to drop a football player in the batting cage, like they don't know what to do with a bat in their hands. It's not one of those crossover sports, but every now and then you got to get like a Russell Wilson or a dude that was drafted. Did you ever play with someone that was a particularly good baseball player?
I think D. Hall was supposedly pretty good. I never saw him play, but
Really?
I think he was drafted because I remember the reason I know this is like we're getting ready to talk about the lockout 2010. And the CBA is talking through. They're like, okay, guys, let's make sure we take care of our money. Let's save it up this year, especially the young guys. We don't know how long the lockout's going to be. Blah 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 blah. And DL puts his hand up. It's like, hey man, what if I want to go play baseball? And the guy was so aghast. He was like, yeah, I mean, I guess if you wanted to do that, you could. He's like, all right, cool. And then like the meeting went on. But I talked to somebody about it afterwards. They said, oh yeah, he was drafted. He was a really good player, and he was kind of had that natural athleticism, obviously, D. Hall, and obviously the confidence that a lot of baseball players have. I
didn't know that. I remember him. I feel like years ago he came on my show and said he was at Nats Park and he had like taken BP or something like that. So there's enough crossover there that I believe you. I don't remember him being drafted. That's crazy. That's pretty cool. But yeah, Home Run Derby, always been one of my favorite events on television to check out. I think that'd be one of the coolest things to do in sports, like short list, sacking a big spot coming off the edge, like taking a quarterback down with the stadium roaring and getting off the field, or forcing a fumble to seal a game. Hitting a ball over the fence like 450 feet would just be amazing.
Elite, yeah. Well,
there's probably others. Or maybe a game-winning shot at the buzzer in basketball where you just throw your hands in the air at like midcourt and get mobbed. Yeah. Those are a few of the
well, it's so funny. Like you were talking about the crossover, and everyone talks about like football players are really good athletes and basketball players are amazing athletes. But I personally think the hardest thing to do is like hit a baseball. Like I think about that. Like if you said, "Hey, Logan Paulsen, can you go play basketball right now?" Yeah, it'd be probably fine, for the most part. But like if you said, "Hey, go hit like an 85-mile-an-hour fastball," like that's going to be a little bit dicey. Like just in terms of hand-eye coordination, the rotational power. It's such a specific skill set, like not only physically but like mentally. Like I just can't get past it. And so like I find that to be like, again, I'm not a huge baseball guy, but it's such a difficult skill to master. It's always cool when you see somebody just crank that thing.
I think there's two, right? There's hockey because of the ice skating element, where like you just can't, like you learned how to ice skate to your credit and play hockey. But like most guys they're a Rottweiler on a linoleum floor, it's just
right.
Slipping and sliding all over the place and just limbs everywhere. Like nobody knows how to ice skate. So that one, in terms of football crossover, or just generally, like if we're comparing what sport is hardest. But yeah, I think the skill hitting a baseball is insane.
It's insane.
Throwing a baseball for guys, like if it's not a natural thing. I was at the park with the Nats the other day, and AJ DeBonsa was there throwing out the first pitch. He did an okay job. He got it over, kind of lobbed it in from the mound, 60 feet, 6 inches. But he was clearly nervous, maybe isn't the right word, but he was like taking it super seriously and practice throws in and using a glove, and he didn't really know what he was doing. And I just think it's an unnatural thing that a lot of guys haven't done. And then you get up on a mound and it's like you're falling off a cliff throwing the ball. It's very odd. But I will say this. I had a charity mushball tournament years and years ago for the radio show. And I think you couldn't come if memory serves. I don't remember, but you were somewhere. But we got a couple of guys that I was like close with on the team came out and helped us play in this thing. And Kedrick Golston came, and I think Will Montgomery posted, and a couple of guys. And I'm telling you, it's hilarious because you're right about hitting a baseball, but like these dudes hit nukes in this. It's kind of like softball, but the ball's like mushy, so you really have to hit it on the screws, or else it like wobbles and spins, and it's just a fun little thing. If you've never seen it, look it up. But it's just hilarious because Kedrick hit one over the fence in that game.
Really?
And just like what an athlete, it was like
people sleep on Kedrick because this is so I sleep on Kedrick because I didn't realize this, but he was like the number one athlete coming out of Georgia before he got in a car accident. And so then he had to get like a hip replacement and like something else going on, like when he was like in his late teens, early 20s, and then like figured out how to move with this like really comprehensive surgery. So like before that happened, apparently he was like his old high school coach came and talked to us and he was like, oh yeah, I've never seen anything even close to resembling Kedrick Golston. Like, and obviously like the tables were leveled a little bit with the car accident or whatever, but yeah, people sleep on how athletic that he was when he was like really rolling.
That's the first thing I thought of when you talk about it. It's not hitting a baseball. It's like lobbing pitches in there. But there were 2 home runs hit in that game. And I think it was like Kedrick Golston and Will Montgomery. You know what I'm saying? Like, and it's just like those dudes just hit nukes to dead center field. And I'm like, wow, what a ridiculous thing. But we got business to tend to. So a couple of things I wanted to get to today. I wanted to look at some guys who need to make a leap, and then also some veterans that maybe are going under the radar a little bit on this episode to kick off a new week of Take Command. So here's the list I put together of the younger players on the team that I think have to have significant leaps this season. You can start where you want to, and we can work our way through this. But I wrote down 5 names. I've got Josh Conerly, first-round pick, up-and-down rookie year, massive potential to be a star at tackle, but he's got to connect some dots. Then I've got Ben Sinnott, for obvious reasons, year 3, a little bit of a now or never candidate, I would say. Similarly, Johnny Newton, who was taken 36th overall with a lot of hype as a pass-rushing, pocket-collapsing D-tackle, who just hasn't shown up very often the last few seasons, a couple seasons. Then I've got Luke McCaffrey, because it's a little bit of all right, at the end of this year, we're going to know if McCaffrey's a mainstay fixture at wide receiver, if he's more back of the roster, kick returner, 5th receiver type. And then the last one I've got is Mikey Sanderstill. He almost isn't like the others and doesn't really fit on this list because he was so good as a rookie, but he did take a step back last year. He's mostly been awesome on the outside, and where he struggled has been on the inside. I don't even know if he really belongs here, but I just think because year 1 was so good and then year 2 was a little bit uneven, like I think there's a potential that he could actually be a standout and like a 10-year stud. But after last season, there's questions about that. So your thoughts on the list that I put together?
First off, I love the list. I think you found people that like need to, like kind of take steps forward for this team to be what they can be, and all kind of to different degrees. And so like, let's start with Conerly. Like we've talked about him a lot. He's one of my kind of most, like kind of pet cat players on the team in terms of like, I like him. I liked his trajectory coming into last year. But, like one of the things we've talked about with this Commanders team is like, the skill positions, there's no big name. It's kind of going to be taken care of an aggregate. Obviously you got Terry Chig is going to be a little bit of a projection. Antonio Williams, you talk about the running back room, tight end, obviously kind of same thing. But the kind of the staple of this team was going to be the offensive line, right? You got Laramie Tunsil, you got, Cosme in there, and Conerly is a piece that we've talked about in that kind of role as kind of someone that's going to take a step forward and kind of you're going to have those 3 cornerstone pieces of the offensive line. And that's going to be a position group you can hang your hat on. But like you've said, and we've talked about on this show, is he has to take that step forward. And we saw flashes of it, but the thing that separates flashes and kind of, an okay player from a great player is the consistency. So can he bring that same consistency that we saw in the last half of the season from a pass protection standpoint, from a run blocking standpoint to this season? I think yes. But if that doesn't work out, this thing that was supposed to be a staple or a cornerstone of the entire team isn't going to work out. And I think that's going to put a lot more pressure on the quarterback, on the play caller, on the receivers to win matchups that they didn't have to win kind of when we first were talking about how good this offensive line could be.
Yeah, that's what's important here, if we're being honest, is just like getting the most out of him because it's a pivotal position and Daniels benefits and everything around him benefits. I think it's also really important for this front office, though, that pick turns into having been a significant win. Like the floor still to me is that he's going to be a solid NFL player. I don't see a world where Josh Conerly isn't a legitimate starter in the league. Like he's just too athletic. There's too many good things that he does. But when you draft a tackle in the first round, and I know this isn't pick 8, this is pick 29, with his upside, the way that they felt about him, I do think that like the expectation is bookend for a long, long time, especially when you're starting on the right side. Oftentimes you take a tackle. I know right versus left has changed a little bit. 10 years ago, we viewed drafting a right tackle differently than a left tackle. But in the first round, to draft a guy who played on the left side, kick him over to the right, if you're not at top half the league right tackle there, it's just not going to feel like a win for me where they took him at pick 29. There's also the video that we saw where, the reaction in the room, like this was clearly the guy they wanted. They really targeted him. They were sure about him. Remember the anecdote from draft night where now no longer with us, offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury basically left a note on the desk of Adam Peters and was like, Josh Conerly or bust, like it was some movie from draft day or something. So like, this is not a player that they're like, well, what do we do here? They just took the guy we wanted. We'll take Conerly. Like, no, this is the dude that they were targeting the entire time. So you just want those picks to be right. In that draft, They only had 2 picks in the first 3 rounds. Looks like they got Amos right in the second round, but they haven't had enough of those hits, right? I mean, Johnny Newton at 36, Ben Sinnott at 53, Coleman still a backup at 67 from their first draft class. So you just want to hit a ball over the wall to stick with the home run derby theme. And I'm hoping Conerly gives them that.
Yeah, and I think he's probably, of this group you laid out, maybe the most significant in terms of his impact. And so like that's one that you kind of circle and kind of say, like, I think this is going to go really well. I think it's going to improve a lot. I love how he approaches it. I think he's got the right kind of student mentality. All the physical tools are there. Just can he take that step? And I think I'm almost going to put that in pen in terms of something I believe. But like you said, like if he doesn't, like I think it's going to not only affect the current status of the roster, but it's going to, kind of one of those things where you look back on and say, man, maybe could have gone a different direction with the pick kind of deal. So,
all right, I'm going to separate the Sanderstill part because, as I said, there's layers to that one. I think he's already kind of proven how good of a player he can be. But of the 4 that have to make a leap, so you said Conerly is one that you're writing in pen.
Yeah.
With Ben Sinnott, are we using pencil, pen, or Sharpie that he's going to do it this year? And what does it look like if he does?
So I think it's, like in terms of players that have to make the leap, I think I kind of put Mikey and Conerly in the same bucket. I think they play positions of extreme value. I think they're going to have big roles. And if they take a step, you're going to feel it right away. I think the thing with Ben is, we've talked about this a ton, is I think that like in this offense, he can take a step. I think it fits his skill set more. I think it kind of fits what he did in college more. I think it's going to help him tremendously. The scheme, right? We talked about the scheme with the receivers in the last show. I think it's going to help him a ton. I think, however, they've insulated that position enough with John Bates and Chigakonkwo to say that he doesn't have to take the biggest step. You're not going to feel it the same way. Now, if he ends up getting 25 catches or something like that would be absolutely huge for this team. And I think that's something that's in the cards, but I don't know if it's as important as those other 2 guys we just mentioned. So I'd say yes, he's going to take a step forward. I just don't know how much the fan base is going to feel it. Now, does that affect the long-term projection at the position? Possibly. But I think
let me go back to something you just said really quick. Sorry.
Yep.
When you say how much they're going to feel it, is that because it might be in the way of like blocking and doing other things and it's not just catches and yards? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, I think that's what I mean. I think he's going to be, utilized in a way where it's like, hey, first and second down, I'm going to be the F. I'm going to play. I'm going to do some insert stuff, going to run some counters, maybe some kickouts on powers, do some inline stuff where like Chig's off the field or in 13 personnel, he's kind of removed from the formation. I think that's going to be a big part of it, maybe a little bit more pass pro. And I do think he'll be able to be used as a weapon. But the thing that always gets me is how much do you use or do you spend time trying to cultivate targets for the third guy in that room, even if he does earn that spot. So I think he'll play more. I think this offense fits him better. But, like I said, if he gets 15 to 25 catches, like that would be huge. And I don't know if fans will feel that necessarily or be like, oh my gosh, Ben has arrived. But that would be a big piece for the offense. And I also think it's a little bit of a canary in the coal mine. If he is successful, it just shows that the offense is healthy. It's on the field. We're finding ways to get other people more touches, like the ball's distributing nicely. So I think his breakout will be more a result of the offense as opposed to like something that he's doing specifically, if that makes sense.
Okay, so I'm going to tread lightly here because 15 to 25 catches would feel like a major disappointment for me.
Really?
I mean, he's.
Well, I think the question though is like, even if he comes out and has a great offseason, like where do the targets come from? Right? You just paid Chig.
So it's a good question, which I'll get to that in a second. But here's my question, I guess, for you on Sinnott. I guess what I'm wondering is it time to change my sight line? Like my original thought was when you draft a tight end in the second round, this should be a piece in your passing game who's like a weapon. Have we moved past that? Like that, to me, they did not draft him to be like, oh, he's a good blocker. That's John Bates, who was drafted in the 15th round, I'm sure, the 5th round. But like, you get my question. I mean, when they drafted him, they're talking about Kittle and Juszczyk. Like, now Juszczyk's a different guy than Kittle, obviously, but like those are weapons. So I'm thinking if it goes well this year, he turns into a weapon. He's like maybe a 35 catch guy or something like that. And ascending is the point. That's not really what this is. Like we need to just prepare for that, or no?
So I do think that like when you look at his physicality and you look at when he touches the ball, now he hasn't touched the ball a ton, but when he does get those opportunities, there's something there. Like the comparison to George, the comparison to Kyle, I think is warranted from a physicality standpoint. But when you're talking about the tight end position, there's more nuance there. Like George has route running nuance. He's cultivated that, right? He's got, and the offense that he was in allowed him to slowly grow into that role. I do feel like, and Trey McBride's another great example. We've talked about it on the show too. Like I do feel like the offense that he's been in the past 2 years, I'm talking about Ben Sinnott, has kind of stunted his ability to develop as a pass catcher. So to me, this is almost like you're going back to like you just drafted him. It's year one. Like what does this look like? But now instead of him having a clear path to kind of touches and targets on the field, like you have Chikakonkwo, who's kind of, I don't want to say blocking him, but I think is a more dynamic pass catching weapon. So for this season, I think Ben could take a step forward potentially, right? But I do think the sight line needs to change because just like I asked you before, like where do you get targets? Like I'm not putting him on the field on third down over Chig, over Antonio Williams right now. I don't think he's earned that yet. So,
and he hasn't. And I agree with that. That's a different conversation. And we'll have that one in 1 second, which is like, where do the targets come from? But I guess here's the best way I can think to ask my question. In a perfect world where he is the number one option, could he catch 65 balls in the league?
In a perfect world, I always think about, yes, there is a perfect world where that can happen.
Because like my point is, and maybe you'll disagree with me, like if the answer to that is no, then it didn't work in the second round, if that makes sense. Is that crazy? You get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think there's this thing with the tight end position where you are a product of the number of targets you get. Like this is a deep cut, so everyone just bear with me. But there was a tight end named Carlson from Notre Dame who played for Minnesota like a year or two before I got drafted. And he had, I want to say 55 or 60 catches 1 or 2 seasons in Minnesota. And he was like the guy, just getting a lot of touches, a lot of targets, play action shots, and was very productive. Obviously that was kind of an outlier year for his career, but I do think like with Ben, I think there's more route running athleticism on the bone that he can kind of get to. Now, he's got to mature as a route runner. He's got to mature in terms of feel. He's got to mature in terms of showing that he deserves those opportunities. And again, like that's a lot. Like I've been around the league for a long time. So if you know how hard it is to develop those relationships with the quarterback, to show the coordinator that you deserve more opportunities in the pass game. So to me, like my sight line is like, if he gets 20 catches this year, I'm going to be stoked. Now, the next year, could he get 35 or 40? For sure, right? He could deserve, but he needs to show that he deserves those opportunities. And that happens when you start doing the little things the right way. And we've talked about this, or I've talked about this other places. Like there were times last year, the year before, we like, this is not what he's doing right now is not good enough. And at some point we're going to get there. And like this offense, I think puts him in an environment where that's much more likely to happen. And so I'm excited for Ben, but I just don't think that like his impact is going to be felt or needed, quite honestly, the same way those other two guys are.
Yeah, I think that's my point. Like in a world where Chig's not around or available, does he get 50 plus catches? And it sounds like the answer would be no. And I guess that's where my frustration is. Yeah. But let's have the other conversation now, because it might be more important. And that is the targets conversation, which I think is totally true and fair. Like people are expecting this. He's got to break out. He's going to have this monster season. How? Where is it coming from? I think that's a good point, because I think first, the thing that we don't always do is we act like there's this infinite number of balls. So it's like everyone's like, all right, Terry could catch 100 balls. We want Chig to catch 70 balls. Let's get 45 balls into the hands of Sinnott. It's like, no. There's not enough passes. Yeah. So if you're working back from, on average, I don't know how many completions per game, but let's say somewhere in the mid-20s or something like that.
Sure.
I do think they're going to run the ball more and better, hopefully. So let's start with that. Then you've got 30-some pass attempts. It probably depends on how good are you. If you're a good team winning a lot of games, you're going to throw it a little bit less because you're salting games away. But, in a world where you're throwing the ball upper 30s and completing, mid-20s passes or something, I think with this team you have to bake in a bunch of scrambles. Hopefully that number comes down. But those are pass attempts, dropbacks, I'll call them. Dropbacks that turn into runs from Daniels because he's not standing in the pocket making throws. I hope that number comes down. I think it will. So that's some of those attempts go away. And then you've got, we just talked about, McLaurin's going to be heavily targeted. Yep. The rest of the receiver position, you've got a Conquo. I've been talking all offseason about wanting to involve the running backs more. I think Blau is going to, especially with Rashad White. Does Bill factor into that? So then how many are there for Sinnott? I think it's a real question. I think it's a really good question. It's a smart way to look at it. All right, that was thorough. I think that was good on Sinnott. McCaffrey would be the next guy on this list. We've talked Conerly, Sinnott. I want to get to Luke McCaffrey and Johnny Newton. What does a big step forward look like for those guys?
Like when we talked about the receivers in that kind of mailbag portion of last week's or the show we did on Friday, I think the thing about Luke is he's showing more route running nuance and separation. Again, it's versus, the backups on the roster, but I do think that there's something there. And so can he carve out a larger role as that 2 or 3 wide receiver on the roster? And so, maybe he's not catching 50 passes, but can we get, in the high 30s, low 40s? And that would be a lot, and that would be really exciting for Luke, but I don't think that's totally outside the realm of possibility. Now, that is an outcome that I think is kind of lies in terms of like, it's definitely an outlier outcome. I think kind of like more right down the middle in terms of 20, 25 catches is probably right on the money. But I think there is something there. Now, role for him is going to be huge. And again, we talked about him as a kickoff returner. And I think from what I've seen, he's ready for a larger role in the offense. What does a larger role look like? Is it a 2? Is it a 3? Is it a 4? Those are all roles, and those are all different, and each one would kind of result in him getting different levels of production. But I think for him, if he ends up with 35 catches, like, I'm stoked for him. Like, that's awesome, and that's big for the offense because it goes back to what you were just talking about with targets. Like, if these guys down the board, Ben Sinnott, Luke McCaffrey, Jalen Lane, I'm throwing there also, if they're getting that kind of target share, it means the offense is on the field for a long time. We're sustaining drives. It means the offense is very, very healthy. And if that's true, that's excellent. And so, again, like a healthy offense is going to raise all these guys' production metrics. So to me, yes, I think Luke has, from what I've seen, is warranted of a larger role. Now, what does that role look like, and what does the execution of that role look like? I think that's a different question and one that's much harder to answer.
Yeah, Luke at 5 catches, I think, would excite me. 29 for his career through a couple seasons, 11 catches last year. Would have been a bigger number if he didn't get hurt. But like that's a number that would play for me, especially right now, not knowing his exact spot in the depth chart. De'Ami Brown's going to factor in, whether it's Burks or somebody else with McLaurin, with Okonkwo. I think that plays. And I think with him, it's actually going to be easy to see. Like some of these, it might not be as easy anecdotally just watching. But I think with McCaffrey, if he's out there, if he's getting separation, if he's routinely involved, if he's making catches, like that growth is going to be pretty obvious. He's also already cemented himself. We talked about on the last pod as a phenomenal kick returner. So it feels to me like he's done a pretty good job starting to carve something out in the league. All right, the last one would be Johnny Newton then. And those of you that listen to the show all the time or our mainstays, you know how hugely high on Johnny Newton I was and just what a big fan of this player in school I was. And then kind of how disappointing it's been since. Like I expected every game to look like the Cowboys game where he just takes the game over and he's Warren Sapp, basically. Which might not be the most fair expectation, but he's the one that I am worried about the most from a personnel standpoint, oddly. You know, we talk about Sinnott and like, where's the volume? We talk about McCaffrey and the competition. I do think there's going to be ways for them to elbow their way into some looks.
Yes,
Johnny Newton is in a really tough battle for playing time. They paid a bunch of money to Tim Settle. Deron Payton is one of the highest paid defenders in the league at this point. Javon Kinlaw is a $15 million guy. I think Amenahu's going to get kicked inside plenty too. Like he's not proven yet to be helpful against the run. So you got to tell me how Newton saves this a little bit here.
So I think the one thing we're looking at Johnny and like talking with people around the league who coach defensive line is if you can get him in a little bit more of like a penetrating style, I think it's going to help him a lot. And like if you look at what, again, the Flores defense was in Minnesota, there's a lot of that, right? And even when they're not penetrating, there's a lot of pre-snap movement where you can use that kind of athlete, like where Johnny Newton is like, you know, he's lined up as a 3 technique, but he's looping outside the tackle. And that kind of movement, I think is something that's going to be really helpful to him. And so, you know, when you talk to the coaching staff, they gush over Johnny Newton. It sounds like he's handling things the right way. They're really excited about him still. And I think it's a little bit unique to me because on film, I'm always kind of like, I see elements, but I don't see the grand picture, which to me, it kind of goes back to your conversation we had on the last episode about like Debo and like how you are in the room. Like to me, it seems like Johnny's a really good guy in the room, just in terms of how they talk about him. And so can this penetrating style, can we space him out a little bit, give him more opportunities to really use some of that athleticism, kind of get him out of some of the things that he struggled with last year, which is like, hey, I'm not great against double teams. I can win single blocks with some consistency, right? Can we get out of this double team world? Can we get in some movement? If that's the case, there is a role for him. Now, like it really comes down to like how they end up kind of executing this thing. Like obviously I was at OTAs at minicamp, like there's flashes and hints from stuff from Minnesota, but still this is Durante Jones's defense. It's going to be different. Is there an element in here? And again, he's not to a point, much like the other guys, where you're going to change the defense to fit him. It's more of a question is like, does he fit the defense? On paper, I think yes, but ultimately we don't know what that thing's going to look like necessarily. So he's a really, really tough one to me for the reason you said in terms of depth. And also because like, I think based on what Minnesota did, it seems to work, but like it might be a little bit different. And if that difference is enough, like it could really hurt him in terms of his production this year. Yeah.
So I don't know if this is fair, but I remember one time talking to a coach and I said, this was not a Commanders coach, by the way. And this is a long time ago, several years ago. And I said, so, you know, they're saying they really like this guy, but it just doesn't seem like it. He says, well, how many guys have they added at that position? And I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, teams will always tell you, like with their moves, like they're going to say what they're going to say. And I just can't help but notice, like you've paid a bunch of money to Kinlaw. You had the ability to let Payne walk and save money and you didn't do it. You had a priority signing in Tim Settle. Like that is what worries me a little bit about. I'm going, well, maybe they still really think it's coming with Newton. And so that doesn't mean that they're right or that I'm reading the tea leaves correctly. Like he's still going to get the last say on this thing, but I hope that this scheme helps him a lot. So, all right, last part of the exercise, I'll make you choose between your kids a little bit here. I think this could be kind of fun. let's rank these dudes in the confidence you have in like a monster year is loading. Okay. So again, I'm going to kick Sandra out because as I look at it, I just think he's on a different level than these other guys. So we'll go 4 deep with Conerly, Sinnott, McCaffrey, and Newton. The Logan Paulsen, that guy's about the ball out rankings. How do you got?
Yeah. So I'm going to go Josh Conerly, number 1. I'm going to go Luke McCaffrey. And again, that might surprise a lot of people. I just think like from what I've seen from him, he looks different to me.
It seems like you're pumped about Luke. I'm psyched.
I am pumped. And I'm surprised. I'm surprised with myself that I'm pumped with Luke, right? Like, which is a weird thing because I'm always a little, I'm pumped on Luke. So I'm going to put him at 2, Ben Sinnott, Johnny Newton in terms of confidence. And I actually think Ben Sinnott and Luke are pretty close. It's just, I don't know like how much 13 personnel are you going to be in? Who's going to get that 12 roll on first, second down? Can he get some targets? Again, I think he plays more this year, Ben. I just don't know if it shows up in target share, but that's kind of my confidence ranking at the moment. Is it the same for you, or how do you feel about it?
I would go Conerly 1 for sure. That's the easiest ranking for me.
Yeah.
I kind of want to put Ben Sinnott 2, honestly.
That was my big debate there personally.
Yeah. I think this offense is super tight end friendly. So I could be wrong, but I actually think Sinnott could have a better year statistically than we're letting on. But again, I've been wrong and too high on him like every step of the way. So like I'm like, I think he's going to catch 94 balls, man. I think he's going to go 1,100 yards, 14 touchdowns. Like that's definitely a possibility, even though they signed Chick. I think Sinnott probably over Luke. There's just an easier path. A lot of times when I do these kind of rankings, like how do you get the looks? How do you get the play time? And Luke is in a battle with a lot of other guys that are at equal footing. Whereas I kind of see there's an unimpeded.
Like you're the 3. You're the 3 if you're swept, Ben, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it's like a recently swept like dirt path right to opportunities for Ben Sinnott. There's like no logs laying in the way. So yeah, I'll put him 2. I'll put Luke 3. And I hate to say it, but I guess I have Newton 4th because I feel like the play time is going to be hardest for him early on. So a little bit redundant, but similar. All right, next on Take Command, I want to hit a mailbag question that came in that I found fun for Logan. Also, we'll tee up our topic for our next Take Command, give you a sneak preview on that as soon as we return. Welcome back to Take Command. So today we took a deeper dive into some of the young guys on the team that need to break out. The next time, midweek, that we chat here on Take Command, I actually have a list of what I would consider to be super important vets. You could call them X factors or whatever, but these are guys that I don't think we're talking enough about for different reasons. So the list will include Dorrance Armstrong. People forget he was dominant. He was one of the best pass rushers in the league last year before he got hurt. And he's just kind of forgotten now because they spent a lot at the edge position. We're talking about Odafe Owe and Caleb Chason. He's also in a contract year. So there's some questions, when is he going to be fully healthy and back to 100%? But I'm intrigued by him. McLaurin, similarly, coming off of injury. I think there is a small faction of the fan base, or nationally certainly, where people are like, that was the beginning of him being 30 plus and like maybe his best years are behind him. I'm not ready to do that yet. I think, count him out at your own peril a little bit. So I want to get into that. Sam Cosmi, I guess this
huge
is now
one.
Because he's another one that missed a lot of time with injury and has a chance to be like, there aren't that many guys on this team that have a chance to be like second team all pros or something. Like it would not be the craziest thing in the world to me if he cemented himself as one of the better guards in the league. And then I know a guy that you're always super high on and you always pump up is Will Harris. And I threw him on this list because I just think no one ever talks about him. And you seem to think last year along the way that maybe he was one of the more important people on this defense. And so we'll add and tweak the list, but that's kind of what I'm thinking for the next episode.
And if there's anybody you want us to talk about, leave a comment, right? Leave a comment or hit us up on Instagram or Twitter, and we'll make sure we get that talked about. Because I think this is a really compelling thing because a lot of those guys are injury-based, but I'm sure there's people we're forgetting. So,
yeah, Grant H. Paulsen on Instagram. I get a lot of DMs from people on things they want to hear about or mailbag questions and try to respond to as many of those as I can. Grant Paulsen on X. All right, with that in mind, speaking of which, one of the questions I got to the Grant H. Paulsen Instagram was from Tommy, who wanted to know who is the best player Logan ever had to block. I got that question. I said, I definitely want to know. So can I guess?
Yeah, there's a couple good ones, but yeah, go ahead.
Well, I've heard you on this show, and then I remember talking to you back in the day, I think in the locker room about this. You used to always talk about what a pain in the ass blocking DeMarcus Ware was.
100%. Yeah. 100%.
You
I mean,
hated
that guy
dealing with DeMarcus Ware.
Well, I remember because I think it was also like where I was getting him in my career, but like, like you come from college and, like I'm a big, strong guy. I'm 6'5", I'm 270. And like, I can put my hands on people and you see other college players. And he was the first guy that I blocked like in a game where I was like, I don't know. I might need to just call it like, this might be it, boys. You know what I mean? Like retirement.
We had a good run.
Yeah, it's been good, fellas, but I'll get you on the flip side. Like the athleticism, the length, the strength, it was incredible. And then like kind of in that same pantheon, obviously blocking like Von Miller was crazy. Like, I mean, just his ability to play the game within the game, like show you, hey, I'm going to stunt inside. So you take this big step inside and he kind of backs out and long arms you in the chest and compresses you on a tight zone. Or like there was a play in Denver where like me and DY absolutely wore him out, like threw him into the Gatorade basically. Like we got after him. And I was like, this is, and like I'm losing my mind. Me and DY are going crazy. The next play, like he just turns into smoke, just disappears in front of my face on like an inside move. And I fall down in the hole and I'm looking up and everyone's stepping on me. And I'm just like, all right, I need to like think about this a little bit differently. Alden Smith was one that was just a nightmare. Just like those guys that were like built in a lab, like rest in peace, but like 30, 35, 36 inch arms, like could do anything on a football field. I will say he didn't always play hard all the time, but JPP used to play hard all the time. Like if he played hard all the time, he'd be the best player ever. Like, but there were plays where you were like, oh, like you're just way stronger and way more physically athletic than me. So like, this is going to be a long day at the office. Justin Smith, dude, Justin Smith was one of the.
Who's Justin Smith? I don't know.
So he played like 4I for San Francisco, like the Cowboy people call him.
He was a good player. Yeah.
So, and I remember like you think like strength, right? Like, like I remember me and Trent Williams, we had a Trey block on the goal line. So they're running power. So Trey, fullback kicks out. And me and him used to wear people out. Because like with Trent, it's like he's posting a guy up. All you got to do is hit the hip. And that guy's going to get ejected, 12 yards off the ball. And so I remember coming down on this hip, like, and you're supposed to hit like the soft meat of the hip, punching his hip, and as hard as I could. And it felt like, I'm not kidding, it felt like I took my shoulder and ran into a light pole. Like that's what it felt like. And I was like, and he just didn't move. And me and Trent,
he was like in his mid-30s when you were blocking.
I know, dude. It was crazy. And I remember looking at Trent afterwards, and he's like, I was like, did you get your outside hand? He was like, yeah, dude. He's like, you get the hip? And I was like, yeah. And he just did not move an inch, which was crazy. And then who else? James Harrison was like blocking a fire hydrant. Like that dude was so low, so strong, like, and just played violently. Like just was a violent, crazy human being. So
that's a great list. Justin Smith's a good one that I, like wouldn't have been in the. You named some Hall of Famers, some All Pro types. Yeah. Was there anyone ever that you're like, how is this guy not a beast? Like where you had him, and maybe it would be an obscure enough name that it's not even good for the pod, but like where you're just like, wait a second, like who are you and what? You know what I'm saying? And it's like this guy, if he actually did this every week, we'd all know this player.
So there was a guy named Walden who played in Green Bay, and then he played in Indianapolis. And I remember I played him in Indianapolis when I was in Chicago, and the whole week leading up to the game, they were talking about this guy is a game wrecker. We're going to run away from him. You're going to be in the backside of every run. Eric Walden, thank you, Evan. And so, and he did this technique. They called it a Cobra Strike, which they learned up in Green Bay. And so all it is like you basically jump forward on 2 feet and then take the top of your helmet and jump as hard as you can into the offensive lineman's face. So if you remember, Clay Matthews used this technique and broke Joe Staley's nose, like the whole thing. And so that game, I remember I like went to war with this guy, like the whole thing.
Are you saying crown of the helmet, like helmet to helmet?
Like, no, like top of the head. So like the top of their helmet looks like a lion just scratched claws down the side of it. And like basically because you're stacked, like your spine is completely stacked, there's no give, right? So like when you're hitting face mask to face mask, there's some give, there's a little bit of movement, but top of the head to your chin is brutal. So the whole week I had to think about a technique to like get through this guy's initial contact. So I'd like run into someone as hard as I could, refit my hands. And so like we basically got in a fist fight. So I get in the locker room after the game and I was wore out, man. Like that game took years off my life. Like I came back in that thing and I was like, oh my God. Like, and the trainer comes up to me because I couldn't get my helmet off. And I was like, something's wrong. Like it's not moving right. And he's like, oh, you dented your face mask at some point in the game, because this guy was just doing this damn strike on my face the whole time. And so he's a guy that people sleep on, but I remember the prep leading up to that game and then in the game just being so tired and so worn out. The other one that was sneaky, like, because like the question also said like, who's the meanest person to you? Two guys got me. Brandon Graham had me. He used to talk so much and was incredibly hard to block because he was so low and so heavy. But I used to like kind of, find a way, get my hands fit. He got me over a pile one time, like where my foot was pinned and he could see it in my face. And I was like, started to scream. And he like, instead of like being like, some guys will like take their hands off and kind of fall on top of you and everything's cool. He like saw it, like registered it in his eyeballs and then cranked me over the pile. And I remember I tore my hip capsule that game because he had like wedged my hip. The other one was Judon Smith.
Well, before you go there, that would be considered dirty, or like, are we cool with that? Like,
I mean, we're all playing football. You know what I mean? Like, we're all playing football, and I played in a style that warranted some of those reactions. Like I remember Dante Fowler, for example.
That's a hilarious way to put it, by the way.
Yeah. So
like,
I was.
Are you saying you were like the try hard who was like pushing after the play a little bit and like always pissing people off?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like if they didn't blow the whistle, like I would still be blocking you. Like that's how that worked. Like so
yeah, you don't get to claim like that wasn't cool, man, because you were kind of always blurring the line.
And again, I never would hurt somebody. Like if I pull off, like if you're like in a bad position, but like I've done some stuff, that I'm not super proud of. You know what I mean? Like, and it wasn't like dirtiness. This is a good example. So Dante Fowler, we were playing against them in Dallas, and I had like a little man reach, and I blocked him, and then the whistle hasn't blown yet. I'm still blocking him. Whistle hasn't blown yet. He starts swinging on me. Whistle hasn't blown yet. And then finally the whistle blows. And it was so long that the ref came up to me and was like, what were you doing? I was like, you didn't blow the whistle. He's like, yeah, but the play was over. And I'm like, you got to blow the whistle. Like, that's kind of how I played. Like, I would play it as long as the whistle dictated. And so, like, in that game, Dante Fowler got me in a bad position and literally, like, spiked my head into the ground. Boom. And I have, like, still stinger issues because of that to this day. So, I tell my wife this all the time. Like, I can't be mad at people because I played so hard. And like, that's just how it went. Like Judon Smith got me one time. So I was in a pile. I could feel it coming. I kind of pushed him off the ball and I could feel it right here. He fell on my ankle and he cranked me over this thing. He tore my MCL and tore a ligament in my ankle. And I bruised my hip capsule on my right hip because of that. And I was mad. But again, like, you play in a certain way, you're going to get certain results. And that was something I was cool with. So
did you ever mention that to Dante while he was here?
I didn't. No, I didn't.
Would he know? Like, would he?
I don't think he might remember playing against me because like I had a conversation when I came to a new team and they were like, oh yeah, like we had like you on the board in the D line room and we all hated your guts. And like, we were like trying to get after you a little bit, like it wasn't like a fine system, but it was that kind of thing. So they remembered me because I was a douche, it sounds like, as opposed to like just a good football player.
Right. That's outstanding. All right. Well, that's a good place to end Take Command. Yeah. Dante Fowler had a picture of you on his wall throwing darts.
I don't know if it was Dante Fowler, but there was a guy that
right.
I think it was in Houston where they're like, oh yeah, like we know you. Like it was who was the guy there? I forget his name, but yeah, it was. And so I was like, oh yeah, well, that's nice. Oh, because I was so good. No, it's like because we all hated your guts. So I was like, cool, nice, love that.
That'll do it for Take Command. That's a fun way to end things today. We're back midweek with our convo on the veterans. For Logan Paulsen and producer Evan, I'm Grant saying so long.